So guys, let's talk age gaps, shall we? So there's a lot of this sort of stuff in the media at the moment about age gaps and certain celebrities and powerful individuals, especially in the royal family. There's a lot of it going about at the moment in the media. There's a lot of conversation about this. There's a lot of chat on the internet about it. I found myself in groups on Facebook looking at comments the other day, and it's middle-aged men basically justifying why it's okay to sleep with 16-year-olds. And it just really grossed me out, to be honest. It absolutely grossed me out. And the fact that people don't understand why it's inappropriate, that just grosses me out even more. So many people on that post were commenting, proud as punch, that the massive age gaps that they have with their partners. And all these blokes were proud as punch that they had married teenage brides and they were in the 30s, 40s, and they've been together 17 years, we've been together 18 years. Yeah, still not sure if it's still... if I could look at those relationships under a microscope, I'm pretty sure they probably are not what they are selling them to be. I mean, some of them will be happy and some of them will have lasted that time for a reason. Of course, it's not everybody, like there's no one size fits all for this at all. But they were just so proud of themselves that they had managed to find a teen bride. And when I say teen bride, I mean under 18. I don't necessarily mean, some of them they were 18, 19-year-olds marrying 35, 40-year-olds. But some of them were a lot younger. And these guys are very proud of that fact. So why is the age of consent 16? Well, it's 16, so 16 and 17-year-olds can sleep with each other. It's not for the rest of society to be sleeping with kids. Because it's legal doesn't make it right. Now, if you need somebody to point that out to you, you should probably either be in therapy or on a register. Sorry to say, but it's true, guys. If you think that's appropriate, you need help, basically. That law is for other 16 and 17-year-olds to sleep with each other. It's not for grown-ass adults to be sleeping with children. And the reason we don't sleep with children is because their brain isn't fully formed until they're around 28 years old. Sometimes a little bit before, sometimes a little bit after, but that sort of age range is when the front of your brain is fully formed and fully wired. Okay? So that's your first reason why it's not right, because kids don't have a fully wired, functioning brain yet. So they're vulnerable for a start. They can't consent to an adult legally because they are kids, and that is the law, because their brain isn't fully formed yet. So just let that sink in a little moment. For those of you that do like kids and 16-year-olds, there's a reason that they are not classed as an adult. And also, they're just out of school, they don't have life experience, they don't have predator experience, they don't know how to protect themselves properly yet, and they don't know how to stand up for themselves. Adults to those children are a sign of authority. We are authority figures to 16-year-old children, and they are not prepared yet in life to challenge us and to tell us, no, this isn't right, this isn't what I want, this doesn't feel good, because they've not been out in the world and had that experience yet. They've not had to deal with sexual predators yet. Well, some of them will have, unfortunately, but they've not had to deal with grown-ass adults coming on to them and them standing up for themselves. And a lot of them will go along with it because they feel like they have to and they don't know how to say no. And a lot of these adults are very charming. Very charming. I've been there myself when I was 17, 16. And they make you feel very, very special. And then you feel intimidated, but you feel charmed. And you can't say no, you can't argue with it, you can't walk away. You just feel like you have to go with the flow. And all that does is create a very, very lot of painful trauma, a long for a long, long, long time, that's going to create a lot of trauma for that person, that child, for the rest of their lives. It's going to rewire their brain. It's going to also give them PTSD, and it's going to make it very, very difficult for them to spot predators after you have abused them, and they will get abused again and again and again until they find their voice and they find their strength to stop that. And by then it's too late. You've done the damage to them. It's already done. These kids are more likely to submit and not question your authority, choices or behaviour because they've not been out in the big wide world yet and experienced all this and learned how to do this. Some of us haven't even done that yet, and we are adults ourselves. I'm 35. Do you know, this is some stuff that still is very challenging for a woman to say no to a man who is extremely authoritative. So imagine what that's like for a 16-year-old child to do. And they trust authority. They trust the things that we do, even if it's right or wrong, because they've not quite learned that yet, that it's wrong. Some will, and some are very switched on, thank God. But a lot of kids are still kids at that age, but they don't need to be switched on. We should be switched on. We should be protecting them and looking after them, not the other way around. So, and they're less likely to hold you accountable for your behaviour and your bullshit, because they're not going to see it as bullshit. They're not going to see these red flags. They're just going to think it's a personality quirk. And this is why older men prey on younger women, because of these decisions and these things. Because they know that younger women and men are very easy to manipulate, very easy to control, very easy to bully, and that is why they go for these young kids and not grown-ass adults, because they know grown-ass adults is going to challenge them, they're going to stand up for themselves, they're not going to take it. And this is why people like Leonardo DiCaprio like girls that are under 25. And I say girls because they are girls. Your brain still isn't fully formed yet. You're still learning. You're still experiencing life. And the reason that when we are like 16, 17, that we are attracted to these older people is because we haven't had the best upbringing ourselves. We may have issues with our parents. We may not have been taught those boundaries and that safety aspect, or basically it's highly likely that they've got mummy or daddy issues, and that's why they're looking for this older person to fulfill the needs. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, I really don't. It's trauma. It's a trauma response when you've got mummy and daddy issues. It's a trauma response to not having a very good parent, either from your mum or your dad. So these people that are exploiting that trauma to date young kids and to then give them more trauma, and then they wonder why it's not right, and they're wondering why they're getting called out on the internet for it, and they're wondering why we're standing up and saying it's disgusting, it's wrong. Have a word with yourself, have a look at yourself, have a look at your soul, have a real deep look inside yourself, because if you think that's okay, God forbid you have children, God forbid you have a sister or a daughter or any female in your life, because you are not a safe person, you are not a safe place. If you think this is okay and you think dating kids is okay, whether it's legal or not, you're not a safe person. And I know there's gonna be a lot of guys that watch this video that are not going to enjoy this and are going to feel called out and going to feel threatened and are going to be super defensive and react, and that's okay. All we ask is that you just learn. You just learn these things. Put yourself in kids' positions. Would you like your child being abused by a 35-year-old man? I don't think you would. So it's time to get some respect, guys. Let kids be kids. Let them grow up, be safe, without people, fully grown adults, interfering with them and ruining their entire life and giving them long-lasting trauma just because these men are not growing up enough or aware enough to know that this is very, very toxic and damaging. And the reason that women your own age won't date you is because they can see you are very controlling, damaged, manipulative. So time to get some therapy, guys. Come at me all you want with the hate. My response is still going to be the same.